I'm Christine. Welcome to the Recovering Perfectionist podcast, where I empower you to develop sustainable habits, challenge society, and take messy action. It's time to align with the universe for the full human experience and redefine what it really means to be successful.
It's too good, the secret is out and wow.
Welcome back to the Recovering Perfectionist podcast. I am so excited to have an amazing guest with us here today. His name is Steve Vasco, and he is a professional athlete, the founder of Peak Mind Mechanics, and the creator of the ReFrame System. I know that doesn't mean a lot right now, but wait till you understand what this means. It is amazing. Steve, thank you so much for being here.
Well, thank you for having me, Christine.
Absolutely.
Something I'm looking forward to.
Yes, I am so
Totally.
excited to talk to you. I have had the pleasure of knowing you for quite some time now, and
Yes.
we're not going to age ourselves, okay?
No,
But
we don't.
but I am very excited for all of these new endeavors that we are both diving into that just so happen to be completely parallel, and I feel like we're bringing a lot of innovation to the athletic world and also just mindset in general. And I'm very excited to dive deeper into that today.
Awesome.
Yeah. So tell me a little bit about, obviously, there's so many things to start with. I would love to talk about you're the founder of Peak Mind Mechanics. Tell me more about what that entails.
Peak mind mechanics, it's something that because when so obviously we know each other from dance and
Yes.
athletes, dance athletes, and regular other sports have a really hard time with the transition between what is the mechanical systems that they need to know to be able to execute whatever it is that they're doing.
Mhm.
And for dancers, especially, they have a very strong relationship that they've built their whole lives around dance as
Mhm.
this way of expression. And it is 100% like intertwined with their identity. And one thing that we learn as we continue developing the dance, developing as a dancer, you start to recognize that sometimes our brain gets in the way of what success looks like.
Mm.
The problem is that because it's such an emotionally intertwined thing with our identity, it's very hard to separate the two, which is what do I need to do for my brain and what do I need to do for my activity? And it's
Yep.
how do we combine the two? And I'm very not motivational. My slogan is mechanics, not motivation. And that's kind of where it came from, where I wanted to understand what is it that top level athletes bring to the table and then be able to say, well, if I wanted to take this baby and turn him into that, how do I go about doing it?
Mm.
And there's a lot of ways to look at it. And the main thing is I fix mechanics. I do not give you motivation in any way, shape, or form.
You're like it's when I hear mechanic, I think auto. It's like you're working under the
Yes,
hood of our brain.
correct.
That's what it sounds like.
That's what it is. That's what the icon is. Everything is
I
about
love it.
just tweaking, calibrating what
Yes,
is happening
I
in the
love that so
brain.
much. I want to go back to something that you said that just really struck a chord is how do we define success? It's something we discuss so much within our community, within everything that we do, especially on this podcast. And that has been such a problem for myself, but so many people that I've talked to of there are so many ways to succeed, not just in this world, in our community and everything, but we have this like one track mind of like, if I don't do this, I haven't accomplished what I need to accomplish. And a lot
Yes,
of that what this is what society says is success, what your parents say is success, what the world has decided is a successful person in this in X industry. And then we get so locked into that thing. And if that thing is not accomplished, it's like we didn't accomplish anything. And that is
yes,
such a terrible self-sabotaging way to think. And
Absolutely.
we've been trying to have more of those conversations. So I'm so glad you brought it up about the fact that there are so many other ways to succeed. And again, a lot of the ways that success, because success is defined by what is fulfilling to you. And we all know that that one thing is not going to be what fulfills everyone. And so
Correct.
it can't possibly fulfill, it can't possibly be the thing that is going to make you happy. And so
Yeah.
figuring out what makes you happy. And I think that is the conversation that a lot of people are trying to have, which is very difficult because most people don't really ask themselves, what would make me happy? They're just thinking, well, I'm in this industry and I'm an Olympian, so I'm supposed to win a gold medal.
Yeah.
And then now you're seeing all these athletes come out and go, oh, I'm not here for the gold medal. I'm here to just share my joy of my sport. That's success to me, right? With Alyssa Liu. Or I'm here to just make it through this Olympics because I didn't even know if I was going to be alive last year. And that's success to me. And there's just so many versions of,
Yes.
and people are starting to talk about that now at a very high level, which I am beyond appreciative of.
Totally. 100%. You know, I there is a lot of factors that manipulate, because that's what it's doing. It's manipulating what we
Mhm.
perceive as success, and whether
Yeah.
it's coming from fears or whether it's
Mm.
coming from excitement or it's coming from biological responses,
Mhm.
what
Peer pressure.
wherever, peer pressure, the environment,
Mhm.
familial relations, your dynasty, your legacy, your sibling that is successful versus you're not. I think that what
Yes.
drives us, and I think that's the first question, is what is driving you to achieve success? And when we separate all the noise and all the muck from it, we start to truly understand where is it that your motivation is stemming from, whether it's an external or extrinsic versus intrinsic. You'll remind me how
Intrinsic?
to intrinsic motivation.
Intrinsic.
Thank you.
Yes, you're good.
Intrinsic motivation. And so once you break all of that down,
Mhm.
then you can go, well, what do I want to achieve? What does that
Mhm.
look like? And
Why am I
for
even in this sport in the first place? Why am I even doing this in
and
the first
that
place?
and that is a question that you have to ask way before it.
Mhm.
There's two parts to this, which is you're being successful and you do not know why you're doing that sport,
Mm.
versus you are not successful and you may know exactly why you're doing that sport.
Mm.
So, and there's every variable between those two.
Right.
So, what is it to say that you love the sport, you're not successful, but you're having a great time? You
Yeah.
love the sport, you're not successful, and you're miserable. You
Mm.
hate the sport, you are successful, and you're miserable or happy. I don't know.
Right.
And all the other variables. So that's where the real question comes from, which is what is the motivation? What is the drive that's getting me from point A to point B, or from point A to point Z? Because it's not, there's so many paths, so many
Right.
moments in between. And so what I think about success is not the outcome. For me, the outcome is so irrelevant about
Mm.
it, because most success, let's say athletes, you practice 4 years to be in the Olympics. But in the meantime, you're not practicing 4 years to be at the Olympics. You have some landmark moments that you must achieve, whether it's
Right.
qualifiers for the
Milestones.
Olympics, which is
Totally.
just shortly before. But if you backtrack 2 years, you go, well, what did I need to do? I need to get back in shape. If I decided
Mhm.
not to compete last year, I need to
Yep.
see what is the human potential for me to get there, and therefore what are
Mhm.
the different little just improvements that I can achieve, and how much am I going to enjoy that process or just put my head down and work through it and be able to appreciate that experience.
Mhm.
My thing about success is that I'm very goal oriented, because the goal tells me whether I'm in the path or not.
Yep.
So the path, not the destination. So I set very specific goals, and then I go, okay, that's the goal I want to achieve. Is it reasonable? Is it
Mm.
achievable? Obviously, you
Right.
can use the SMART system, which I wrote on InStep, just to remind people. Um, then there's other factors that determine whether that's going to make you successful. And then how do you set all the tiny little landmarks, benchmarks, whatever you want to call it, to feel like, yeah, I'm on track. And even then,
Right.
am I happy?
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's
Because
the thing is like to make it measurable, sure. You're like, okay, I hit this thing, but then like, am I enjoying the process of doing this? Because that's the thing that we talk about a lot in our sports as well, is is it's not really about the destination, it's about the journey, right? And so if
sure,
you're not enjoying the journey, because that is like the majority of it, and then the destination is usually like this much, and then you're on a new journey, right?
ideally,
So that's it's crazy because you want to soak in this as much as possible because this is what you've worked your whole time for. But I mean, how many times have you heard someone say, I finally achieved my thing and it wasn't as great as I thought it was going to be? And you're just like,
mostly that's all
oh
you hear.
no. Right. And that's
That's all you hear.
terrible. Or it didn't last
Yes.
as long. And then I felt afterwards, I almost felt worse because I didn't know now what I was working for. Like it
Yep.
became their whole,
Absolutely.
you talked about at the beginning, their whole identity, their whole their whole purpose in waking up in the morning. And you're just like, oh
Yeah.
no, like you didn't have anything outside of that, you know? That gets really tricky because once you do accomplish it, it's like it's almost worse than if you don't because you're still working towards it.
Yes. And it really comes down to what you're willing to sacrifice.
Hmm.
You're willing to sacrifice your sanity. You're willing to
Yeah.
sacrifice your relationships. You're willing to, be
Yeah.
terrible at most other things.
Hmm.
Um, so once
A lot of
one,
self-care sacrificing. Self, self,
a lot. I mean,
yeah, yeah,
it's mostly, I'm just gonna go tunnel vision and focus on that one thing, whatever that path looks like.
right.
You use the word enjoy,
Mm,
and I think that in itself it's problematic,
mm,
uh, because that word puts so much pressure on what the expectation of what the experience need to be, even if you're focusing only on the journey, because you're
okay.
assuming that if I'm in the journey, I'm going to enjoy it, and that's where I may love my process and I may hate my process,
Yeah,
and I may use that word like strongly, but that may be the
right,
reality. And I
right.
am willing, and again, back to the sacrifice, I'm willing to sacrifice anything to
Hmm.
achieve what I want,
For sure.
because the alternative is that I'm going to live it. I'm going to live nothing and feel empty and
Mm.
feel like, what do I want out
Yeah.
of life?
What did
Do I
I do with my time here?
exactly, which is a
Hmm.
whole other argument, you know?
Yeah.
So what success really looks like, it comes down to the individual and what it is that they perceive as whole,
Yeah.
what is going to make them whole.
Sure.
Because again, you can't ask two people what their success is going to look like
Hmm.
and what it's going to feel like, and expect them to get there at the same time and they're both going to
Oh,
feel
right. Or
equally
the
rewarded.
or even the same way. I mean,
Absolutely,
my brother's
yes.
an actor, and I mean, the amount of things that we've seen on Brad Pitt and Leonardo DiCaprio and all these people, and like no one, it's like they blaze a trail and the grass grows behind it very quickly. It's like no one can blaze the same path.
Yeah,
And I think the more difficult the sport is, like the Olympics, it's like everyone has their journey. But you were talking about being a whole person. That to me, again, like you said, a whole nother conversation and understanding what it feels like to be whole to you versus what someone else feels like it means to be whole to them. And I think we tend to use our sports as a way to justify our wholeness or
correct.
justify our identity. And this is why I'm here. And I think a lot of people, we've had this conversation, you and me too. Like a lot of people just figure out, oh, I just fell into it and I'm kind of good at it. Right? It's
Yeah.
not something they felt like this is what I was put on this planet to do. They just, maybe
Hmm.
the sport found them, maybe they found the sport, they tried it, they started excelling, it came easy to them. And then now all of a sudden it feels like if you're in it for long, now you need to start having goals and figuring out what are you going to do with this? And that could be anything. It doesn't even need to be sports. It can be any career path at all.
Anything.
And so that gets really tricky if it's not something that you chose, that maybe something that chose you,
Yeah.
you know?
My process is set the goal first.
Yeah,
You don't have to stick to it. There may be a point in which you realize that this is not for you.
yeah. And
And
be
and it
okay
is
admitting
very,
that.
but most people
That's hard.
are not comfortable doing that. And
No,
that
it's really
and
hard.
that in
It's really
itself
hard.
becomes, you know, the realization that whatever that person is doing, that is my, wow, my north. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Hmm.
It's like they're the best at whatever it is, and this is what I
Yeah.
think I love, and I want that. And whatever they're
Yeah.
doing, I don't want that. I
Right.
do not want that. I mean, I walked into your path and I realized that's not for me.
Yeah.
And that's okay
That's
as
okay.
long as
Yeah.
you're honest, because
Right.
yeah, to me, it's all about the goal. You set a
Right.
goal in whatever shape, form, domain,
Hmm.
anything you want. You set that goal and let that be true and honest.
Yeah.
Test it out. You have a
Hmm.
goal in a domain in which you've never been in. Test it out. See if that even
Right.
is something you enjoy, that you enjoy, right? Because at the
Yeah.
beginning, we need to kind of have some pleasure. And the pleasure may be just achieving your benchmarks, getting a little dopamine and going,
Right.
yeah, I did it.
Yep.
But maybe it's not. And it's okay to pivot.
Hmm.
Or
Hmm.
it's okay to say, well, those benchmarks were too close together, and the amount of pressure I'm putting on myself, it's too great for what I want. So let's make it healthy,
Yeah.
and being okay
Hmm.
with that.
Right.
I think our culture, especially with social media, it's made things very unreasonable,
Hmm.
extremely unreasonable, because
I
we
agree.
do tend to perform, literally perform.
Literally.
We
Yep.
perform, you know, being happy, perform being great at what we do, and we say
Hmm.
all the right things. And Steve, don't say something dumb right now because
Right.
I'm performing.
Right.
And
Yep.
that's very common. So if you can walk in a room by yourself
Hmm.
and say, am I still okay with this? Then go for it, even if it's
Yep.
painful, even if you sacrifice a ton.
Yep.
There's a book by man, what is his name? He wrote "It Takes What It Takes," and he passed away from cancer a few years ago. Mowat, Jason Mowat, and just that phrase, "It takes what it takes," because he does work with extreme athletes,
Mm.
and it is the difference between one athlete and what they're willing to give up versus the other athlete and what they want. And you see
Hmm.
that the one athlete has longevity and has, you know, they're healthy, they don't go out to party, they just go do their training, go get some rest, and they're
Hmm.
willing to sacrifice the good times for the sake of this one thing that they just want to be good at. So they sacrifice and they do whatever it takes.
Hmm.
So that phrase has always like stuck to the back of my brain. That always reminds me that, you know what? It's not always rosy and it's not always pretty to be successful. And if that's truly what you want, go for it.
Right.
Why
And
not?
be okay going through the hard times, and it's going to be worth
Absolutely.
it for you if you truly want that thing you're working towards.
Yes,
Hmm.
exactly. So healthy brain, healthy body, healthy, occupation,
Hmm.
activity. I think it's a negotiation between all the systems to be able to find the right balance.
Yeah.
So starting with not, I'm going to enjoy myself.
Yeah.
To me, it's really important because it sets a level of expectation to the activity that is way greater than what we know it will be for you.
Right.
I had a
Yeah.
conversation with this lovely lady. She's a dance teacher, and her daughter dances, and she has a dance studio near me. Um, anyway, she was saying, "What do I do with my daughter? Because in class she's a rock star, but
Mm.
every time it's time to perform, she falls apart."
Oh, wow.
And I said, "Okay, so tell me about what you do. Let's find out what you do, because you may be the real problem." And
Right.
I go, what do you say to her right before class? Nothing. And I go, what do you
Mm.
say to her right before performance? And she goes, have fun. And I'm like, all right, stop saying have fun. She doesn't know what it's like to experience that aspect, having
Right.
fun. You've
Right.
never made about fun. You don't say have fun every time she goes to class. So maybe if she's going, well, how do I have fun? I don't know what fun looks
Right.
like in this environment.
Isn't
You know
that
what I mean?
wild? That is just so crazy to even think about because it's like you would think that would be the right thing for a parent to say. It's just like, okay, have fun, like not put pressure,
Yes,
um,
exactly.
and yet and yet that
What
might
happens
be
when
what's
it's not
screwing her
fun?
up. Yeah. What does that even look
What do
like?
you do?
Yeah.
Exactly.
That's
What do you
crazy.
do when it's not fun? When you have never trained to have fun?
Hmm. Wow.
And so I'm always a little resistant to words like that. Words of affirmation,
Hmm.
any type of motivation. Ooh,
Yeah.
my hair in the back of my head goes,
Yes,
"Ugh."
yes, yes. Yeah.
It's like, no.
That's
I also
so
don't like it for
funny.
myself. So, maybe that's part of
Yes,
my
yes, yes.
personality.
So, gosh, I have so many things I want to ask you because I know you have four kids. And
Yes.
now we're talking about parents and kids, and I almost want to know, based on everything that you've done, because we haven't even talked about your system and your books and all these things, but you've created all of these incredible tools. How does that help you to understand like your children better and help guide them to what they want to do?
It is so tough to think like me and to be
Yeah.
a parent and
Oh,
not become a Woods
hmm.
or any of those parents that were
Hmm.
um, just so fixated on their child's success. I have
Hmm.
four. How do I split my time in four? So that's
That
going to be
too.
difficult. The other thing is that, when you have a co-parent, they also have an idea of what they think success looks like. And
Hmm.
I'm very lucky to have my wife, because for her, it's about the emotional support.
Hmm.
And so I've learned from that, because before I was like, no, so, oh my gosh, hit the metrics and all of that mentally before I had
Right.
children. So she gave me a perspective on what it's like to be a human
I love
in
that.
a emotionally supportive sense.
Mm.
So as a parent, what I do is that I'm available for them whenever they want to communicate with me in a way in which they know I'm going to be supportive no matter what.
Of
Let's start with that.
course. Of course. Yeah,
It's
yeah, of
support,
course.
support. Do whatever you want, but I also don't like do too much hand holding.
Yeah,
That's my wife's domain.
right.
You know, like I want them to fail,
Yeah.
because I want them to fail and learn and develop resilience, and
Hmm.
then be able to thrive
Yeah.
as humans.
Oh, totally.
And so that's the only thing I ever say to my wife is, it's okay if they screw up a little bit.
Yeah.
If it's dangerous, if they're gonna, harm themselves in any way, of course we'll be there to save
Well,
them.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Within
But we
reason,
have
yeah.
to let them screw up more often than not, and we cannot bail them out. And so
Yeah.
that is the only like
Hmm. I
like
saw
my
this.
basis to go
Yeah,
ahead.
go ahead. Go ahead. I was just going to
I
say, I
said
saw
my
this thing the
basis.
other day that said, if you knew that you were going to succeed after failing 50 more times, how quickly would you want to fail?
Yeah,
I was like, oh
that's
my
very
God,
true.
so fast.
Yeah, totally.
Like, yeah.
So I really do feel like I'm just an anchor that can always come to me
Hmm.
if they really want to,
Yeah.
if they really need that art. As far as what they want, if they want to try something, I'm 100% supportive.
Hmm.
Like explore, try stuff out. Why
Yeah.
not? When you're young, you have the opportunity to be all of these things, and I think
And be
I think again,
curious.
society has made it so crazy that you have to achieve this and be that, and unless you
Mhm.
get onto an Ivy League, and luckily people are starting to like have different conversations now, but it's
Mhm.
always been, unless you're at the top of your game in education, in financial, in
Mhm.
sports, that you basically have failed at life,
Yep.
and that's ridiculous.
That's terrible. I do,
Yeah,
yeah, the conversations are shifting for sure. I think that, school, universities, like definitely things are coming out about what that looks like and what people come out on the other side of that. And that's not to say that we're not for school. My mom
of
has
course.
master's degrees, like we are
Yeah,
all for school, but it
of
has to
course.
be in the right, I think before everyone funneled into school and colleges, even though they were not maybe meant for that. And my
Yep.
brother was one of the, earlier adopters of like, oh, I'm going to be an actor. Like, I don't need to go to college for this. I'm going to go do technical school of this or go to an acting school or whatever, but I'm not
Nice.
going to. And that was his, he did his research on that. But a lot of people, they weren't that bold to say, oh my gosh, I could never bring that up to my parents. They want me to go be a doctor, a lawyer. There was all
Yeah,
these ideals coming from the previous generations. And so people weren't doing what they wanted to do. Now, those conversations definitely have been shifting with millennials and Gen Z, um, which is wonderful. But it's also opening up the doorway to what we were talking about before is what would make me happy? What do I gravitate towards? What kind of goals do I want to have? If my parents aren't putting their preconceived notions into me, what makes sense for me? You
yeah,
know, and my brother and I grew up with, my dad, who you know very well, who exposed us to everything. We were
yeah,
in a dance studio, we were performing, we were traveling, we were doing all kinds of things. So the curiosity was rampant. I mean, it was like we could do and be whatever we wanted to be, and he just gave us the tools and the resources to do them.
nice.
And then we decided, do we want to keep doing this? A lot of people were
Yeah,
like, "Oh, I thought you were going to own your dad's studio and take over. I thought you were going to go pro and do all." And I was like, none of that stuff. We had so many other things we wanted to do. And both of our parents were very supportive, just like you are with
yeah,
your kids. Whatever we wanted to do, we were allowed to do that. And
nice.
I mean, I went to school for interior design. I got into like the top school in the nation for interior design. And
Nice.
that's what I wanted to do at the time. And then I really missed dancing. And then, like, and it
Yeah,
it just ebbed and flowed from there. But I also realized that the pro and dancing part of that was maybe not the part of the dance world that I loved the most. There were so many other aspects of it, which is now how I've gotten into all these other pieces that I'm contributing. And that takes, unfortunately, that takes time to develop because it's like, man, if I knew now, what
totally.
or then what I know now kind of thing. But it definitely is beautiful to have spaces to grow and to feel like you're not late for anything. You're right on time,
Yes.
on your timeline. It's hard to,
This journey that I'm in at the moment, I mean, it's
yeah,
been, I don't know, before I started dancing, I was already thinking about psychology as something that
yeah,
interested me. Like there was an interest in like just seeing how the mind worked,
yeah,
and so, but I didn't have, not necessarily uh, the the willingness, but it took a long time for me to find that moment in that space where the the imagination or creativity, but then also being interested in something to a point in which I was willing to sacrifice some stuff
Hmm.
to be able to get to where I am at the moment.
Right.
I mean, I spend so much time in bed with my door open. So if my wife or our kids would need me, just typing away, writing stuff
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
creating the systems. And um,
That's amazing.
but I don't think I would have been able to do that 10 years ago. I don't think I would
Right.
have allowed myself to do that.
Mm.
And that's the thing about time. If you're willing, if you are curious enough, if that's the
Hmm.
word, if you're curious enough to try it out and not be afraid to try it out,
Yeah.
that's where the game is played, you
Right.
know?
Yeah. That's the meat of life right there.
Hmm.
Talk to me a little bit more. Obviously, you have your book, which I can see behind you, InStep, which is awesome. And I've had so many people. I just saw Melanie last weekend. She's like, "Oh
Oh,
my
that's fun.
God," she had your book sitting right there. She was like, "It's so exciting." But you have more books coming, which we're very excited about. I want to talk a little bit about your reframe system. We've kind of probably dabbled over the things we've talked
Mhm.
about, but anything that we haven't mentioned that is kind of important.
Yeah, so the reframe system is about the knowledge deployment gap.
Okay. Ooh,
So why
explain that
why
further.
yeah, why someone can have 5 times more knowledge than they can effectively execute under pressure. That's what it's
Wow.
about.
Interesting.
So yeah, one of the things that you start to notice is, and this is so common for almost every single activity, but if you take dance, you say, okay, my job is to teach you how to dance. So what does
Mhm.
dance means? And you break it down. Well, you need to know the steps. You need to know your technique. You need to know how to follow. You need to know how to stay on time. You need to have a frame, blah, 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 blah. And you start to break it down into all these mechanisms that you need to have, right?
Right.
And if you ask any of your clients, they can probably answer all that information clearly, like super,
Right.
super like knowledgeable. But when it's time to execute, they can't. They can only
Mm.
execute fractions. So I say that the person with the most struggle is at a 5-to-1 ratio. So they only can produce 20% of what they know. But then if we look at the people that we idolize, they work at a 5-to-4 ratio. They can
Yeah.
do 80% and above of what they know.
Wow.
And it's not binary. It's not like it's always 5-to-1, 5-to-2. There's incremental
Hmm.
amounts. So the system, essentially what I'm doing is understanding where it comes from. So the reframe system. It is a diagnostic tool that allows you to identify um, where does your execution problems come from, and it's whether they stem from identity crisis or attention fracture or nervous system dysregulation.
Mm,
And
that
so
one.
what it yes, I know. But the tricky thing is that, for example, what looks like procrastination, it may be identity that is
Mhm.
triggering the attention fracture, that it's triggering the
Yeah.
nervous system dysregulation. And so what we see is we see that you're tripping out about something. And what
Hmm.
we don't understand is that truly where it comes from. So the reframe system is about diagnosing where you are and then finding exactly what system it's falling or it's failing.
Right.
And
What's
so
blocking? Yeah. This is so
yeah.
interesting. I've never heard it put this way before, but I am around so many incredibly intelligent entrepreneurs in my
Mhm.
life um and my husband and I, we both look and we're like, oh my God, they know so much about so much. They're the people we go to sometimes for, advice or brainstorming, and yet they're still in their late 30s still
Yeah.
figuring out the success rate or the success method of their life and trying to figure, and
Mhm.
it's like how, like you're right, there's this blockage of what they
Yeah.
know, and they know exactly. I mean, you could ask them anything about anything. They know what's coming in with AI. They know all these things. They know coding. They know, and it's like, well, how are you not a multi-millionaire right now? Or how are you not doing exactly what you love to do? And like
Yeah.
what you just said, just oh my gosh, like it's a light bulb that just went off because it makes so much sense of something is hit, and the biggest things, like you said, nervous system regulation for sure, and identity, like we talk about all the time, is just these generational traumas that just are coming down that are just stopping you. And a lot of people don't even know that these things are stopping them.
Correct.
It's
Yeah.
crazy.
Yeah. It's, it's funny because I instinctually do it. I instinctually like recognize like, oh, okay, that looks like that,
Mm,
but what I'm actually seeing is that.
hmm.
This is what I think, this is what you would see, and this is where my brain goes instead.
Yeah.
Uh, and that it took a while for me to understand that part of my brain
Right.
because it was really about understanding myself and how I would diagnose people, and I didn't know what I
Yeah.
was doing. And
Yeah.
so it was like where is the bottom?
Right.
Like how low can you go in
Hmm.
in your cascade is what I call it. So
Yeah.
the cascade, so it's a quadrant of things that we're always looking at. Identity being the first, then attention being the second, then your emotional regulation being the third, and then your skill execution being the fourth, and then it
Wow.
circles again around. And so I noticed that, okay, we always focus on execution. What are your skills? What is this? Then we noticed, okay, you're freaking out, you're having a little panic attack, you're whatever. And so that is the next thing. But that only happened because you lost attention, because you're not focused. And focus is such a overused word because most, it's a hard concept to understand.
Right.
But you're only focusing on the wrong thing because you're insecure about yourself. And it's like,
Yeah.
oh, okay, let's flip this sucker
Yeah.
backwards and let's start at the
Yes,
beginning.
literally. Wow. That's crazy. That is so there. I mean, so many things. I'm like speechless because it's the I've never heard anyone be able to explain it. Like I know what's happening and going on, but
Yes.
it's I'm not using those words. And I only know what's
Yes.
going on because I've done a lot of therapy and because I've done a lot of it took time to get to
Totally.
that point too. And so, hence the recovery perfectionist. Like that is exactly, we were talking about performing earlier. I had to literally name my podcast The Recovering Perfectionist in order for me to know that like, oh, it doesn't have to be all edited and perfect and beautiful. And like, we can just like, wow, and do something.
Awesome.
It's okay, and that
Yeah.
can still produce great content and great conversations, and people actually relate to that more because they don't feel like they're talking to this perfect version of yourself that doesn't even exist, right? Like you said, showing the highlight reel on Instagram, that's not
Yeah.
real. And so, uh, yeah, but just to go back and to understand where the execution is coming from, because like you said, the going, I love how the example you gave of the mom and the daughter of going back to like, why is my daughter freaking out before a performance? And
Mhm.
it's like, oh my gosh, it's so much deeper than that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
When you really go back into it, it's crazy.
Yeah. Absolutely.
What's the
It's
feedback
fascinating.
you've been getting on your book, and where are you headed with this series or a different series?
I'm getting great feedback on
Good.
InStep. I was actually, as I told you previously, I was concerned about publishing the book,
Yeah.
mostly because it is something that I wrote such a long time ago,
Hmm.
and I and I evolved,
Hmm.
and
Yeah.
I had to remember why I wrote it. Originally, I wrote it like there's excellent uh, books out there. If you know what you're looking for, if you know how to pull the info from those pages, there's excellent stuff. The problem is that most people can't. Like the
Right.
general audience, the general, like if we take our industry in dance, if you take the baby students, they don't know how to pull that information out.
Mhm.
And so I
And
wanted to give
apply it,
something
like
that
really apply it.
exactly,
Yeah.
and I wanted to pull just enough information to be able that it doesn't matter who reads it, from the top pro in the world to the babyest student. If they were struggling at that particular moment, they could maybe find something within the pages and be able to use it.
Yeah.
And that's the only reason, like, I finally decided, okay, no, just publish it. Like, stop worrying
Yeah.
about now you're in the reframe world and all of this stuff. It's like that's too complicated
Right.
for our world.
Mhm.
You just need to start with something to introduce the system without no one really knowing that you're doing it.
Mhm.
And so
Mhm.
even InStep, it's broken down into the four quadrants. But I don't talk about it from that point of view,
Yeah,
because
yeah,
I
yeah.
just want people to like be able to read it and go, okay, yes, let's start here.
Mhm.
Okay, we're moving on to this. And
Right. It has to not be overwhelming because then your
correct,
brain can't
correct.
like actually absorb the information.
Yes, I didn't want to use any psychological jargon. I did not want to use any
Right.
research methods. I didn't want to do
Hmm.
anything.
Yeah.
It had to be about the person reading it and themselves, and
Yeah.
that's it.
And be able
Do
to
not
relate to
compare yourself.
themselves. Yeah.
Correct. Do not
That's
compare yourself
amazing.
to anybody else. Just be able to
Right.
read it. And so, yeah, I'm getting great feedback from it.
That's awesome.
As far as the other books, I'm still editing Reframe, which is the next book.
Okay.
There's a small companion that I'm working on. It's called Built to Execute.
Nice.
Earlier, I mentioned how the smart system is. It's a great system if you have vision and if
Mhm.
you understand yourself and your circumstances. Then the smart system works great. From a starting point, it's great,
Mm.
but it has some areas where it struggles, because it can become motivational.
Right.
And so I recognize that my students, my clients that understand how I think and how I work and how so black and white I am, or struggling with goal structure or
Mm.
goal construction. And so I'm like, well, what is missing? And so I started to write this. Originally was this 3-page thing that's become a 50,000 word thing about how to construct goals effectively. And
Wow.
so that I'm gonna release sooner. I probably won't promote it at all because I don't want to get sidetracked, but I need the build to execute framework to be available so that when people start working on reframe, they'll have
Right.
something to build.
Sure.
Because I I set a prerequisite in the reframe system. And the prerequisite is you need to have a goal,
Yeah.
but a real goal, not a nonsense goal, not a motivational goal.
Right.
And so in order for us to know where the cascade originates, we need to have a goal to force the cascade.
Can you just quickly tell me the difference between a real goal and a motivational goal in your world?
So I use the 3 C's, and I'll tell you the first two, which are the most important ones, which is the constraint to your goal, meaning
Hmm.
how in life is this goal even possible?
Okay.
It's how do you see what is the possibility? So that is the first three.
Like,
The
is it
second one,
attainable?
yes, but really, because the smarts has the achievable. That's one
Okay.
of that's
Okay.
one of the um, parts of the acronym. But it's truly like looking at the constraints in your life. Like look
Oh,
at your whole life and
right.
see, is this even doable? Meaning, can I say that I'm going to, oh yeah, I'm going to work out every day and for 3 hours a day, and that's what I'm going to do. And then, okay, but what does your life really look like?
Right.
Can you even work out for 3 hours a day? Is that feasible? You know what I
Right.
mean? So
Hmm.
let's look at that. The next is context.
Okay.
How do you frame that goal around the, how do you frame your intention around the goal?
Mhm.
And because that's to me becomes, you know, is it relatable? In the smart system, in the smart framework, there's relatable, but break down relatable and start to really consider what does that mean versus, okay, add context to it.
Mhm.
You know what I mean?
Right.
And
Like
that's
how,
where you,
yeah, like how, context. So like how wanting to achieve, like why are you wanting to achieve it? Or what's the purpose behind
so
it?
so let's we take a hypothetical. You want to be on the Olympics.
Hmm.
What does that actually mean? Like you want to get to the Olympics. What does that actually mean?
Yes, 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 I see what you're
You know,
saying. Like
what
it
is the
becomes this
real
big,
context? Yes.
yes,
So what does it
right.
truly mean? Because we need to define how are you going to get to that goal? What is the context of your
Hmm.
of your goal? And then we're going to look at every component
Hmm.
to that goal, not just the motivation. I want to be an Olympian. I'm going to be the greatest in the world.
Right.
No.
You need something that's measurable, something tangible.
Yes, but measurable still, it's, I want you to try an exercise and write a SMART goal based on specific, measurable, achievable, relatable, and time bound.
Hmm.
And what you're going to write is going to sound really nice. And then I
Hmm.
want you to really like look at it through constraints. What does your life look like?
Hmm.
Look at the context of what that particular goal is. And you start with those two and you see if the goal still, what you've written down still measures up to what success looks like. Success, going back to success, which is, am I achieving my goal or not? Now,
Hmm.
the point of the goal for me does two things. One is that I do want you to be successful. I don't want you to fail. So set in a way in which you have a chance to succeed.
Right.
But then if you don't, it gives me data.
Mhm. Yeah.
Meaning that if I start seeing you falter for whatever reason, what is that data giving me?
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because
Oh, totally.
if it is really something that is within your constraints and it is clearly contextually defined, then you should achieve it if you
Right.
have all the right tools. You have the skills necessary. You
Hmm.
may need those.
Right.
I cannot say that I'm going to go and become, an Olympian at gymnastics just because I want to. Am I flexible enough? Am I strong enough? What are some of the things that I need? I'm too
Right.
old, but maybe I could. Maybe I could
Who
if I
knows?
give up on the rest of my life. Maybe.
Well, that's the thing is that what are you willing to give up in order to achieve this goal? And a lot of people, I think it becomes time and finances.
Which are
Those
your
are
constraints.
right. Okay.
You have 4 kids. Can I
Yeah.
go and try to be an Olympian right now? No, I can't. My wife will literally divorce me.
Yeah. 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 Right.
So,
Yeah.
so that doesn't work. So set a
Yeah.
goal that makes sense.
Right.
And then you should be able to achieve it.
Hmm.
Because at the end of the day, my goal is for you to be successful at whatever
Hmm.
it is that you're setting. But when you are not perfect,
Mm.
when everything in life did not go perfectly your way, whatever
Hmm.
that means, can you handle the stress, the adversity, the labels that were like instilled on you, the tiny words that influence the way you feel,
Hmm.
the pressure you felt as you were growing up because of success that's near you or no success around you?
Yeah.
Will those things get in your way? And if they get in your way, we're ready for you,
Yeah. Interesting. Yeah.
because we'll find your path.
Yeah. That's amazing. Wow, I love it. I love it so much. I'm like, when do we start? Do you do one-on-one coaching? I'd like a session next week. Like this is so exciting. This is fantastic. So I would love to, first of all, we're going to put your link. I have your link for your book for people to get your
Cool.
book and obviously, for future things people can go back to your website. I will put that in the show notes of this episode so people can easily
Awesome.
find you. Is there anything else, any other ways that you work with people? Do you do one-on-one coaching? Do you do group
Yeah.
coaching? Okay.
No, I mostly do one-on-ones. I am
Okay.
considering starting to do lectures.
Okay.
I'm getting a lot of invitations for lectures. And so it is, how do I take something that's one-on-one and how do I build it into a group session where
Right.
people are able to get something from it? So that's going to be the next challenge, the next
Yeah,
adventure. Um, because I do want it to be helpful. Absolutely.
of course. Of
That's
course.
the most important thing for me. Um, and then ReFrame, I'm hoping for October 1st release.
That's
That's
my birthday.
no way. Well,
Yeah.
that's awesome.
I love that. Great day.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Very
It was
cool.
just a day
I know. It's
because
also, I
I
think, the
needed,
first day of the fourth quarter. So a lot of people, a lot of things start on that day. Yeah.
honestly, I needed to follow my advice
Yeah.
and I needed to set goals because I needed to force myself to do it. Because
Yeah.
if
Have a
not,
deadline.
it was never going to be ready. It was never
Right.
good enough because somewhere inside me, I'm still insecure
Sure.
and I don't want to do it.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
So,
Right. Yeah, we're
so
all, and
October
that's what
1st
I
on the
want
road.
people, I want people to understand is we're all dealing with that identity piece. And just when
Totally.
we think we've climbed that mountain and we're there, there's another identity thing that comes in underneath and it's like, oh, I didn't even know I was worried about that. It just, and for me, when I was told that, and not just in therapy, but through so many wellness things that I've been a part of, retreats and all these things, uh, it felt a little discouraging at the beginning because it felt like, oh my gosh, so basically I can do all this work and I'm never going to be healed. I'm never going to be overcome these identity pieces because I'm constantly going to be dealing with all this generational trauma that my grandparents went through. And now I'm dealing with them. And now, all these pieces. And it took me a long time to get over that. And the answer is not that you're never going to be healed. The answer is that you're always going to be, especially when you set different goals, you're going to be faced with different identity pieces and different challenges and different things that pop up because now you're, doing your, you know, what do I want to say? You're like putting yourself out there in a different way,
Yeah, absolutely.
and that gets tricky.
Well, to
So
make it even more relatable, I will tell you my cascade. You asked me about what's coming next.
yeah.
My body went
Ah!
so immediate dysregulation because I
Yeah,
don't like talking about myself. So
yeah,
it
right,
flared. The
right.
next thing that happened is that my attention totally got fractured and I started focusing on the wrong thing.
Yeah.
And then I started to consider, but what is it? What is going wrong? And it's, well, maybe I don't think I'm good enough.
Mm, that's so real.
And
That's
so
so
I'm going to
relatable.
backtrack the other way and I'm
Yeah,
going to go, but this is what we're here for.
right.
And so I have a
Yeah.
task, and my task is to answer Christine about what's coming up next. And
Yes,
here
yes,
it is.
yes.
Just
Yes, yes, yes.
speak your truth, I guess.
Yes. Yeah, because people need this. And it's, I saw something again the other day that was like, embarrassment or awkwardness, that feeling that people feel like, oh, that's so cringe. That is such an underdeveloped emotion. And I was like, okay, elaborate on that. And this video that I saw was very much along the lines of we need to be okay being that way. We need to be okay just putting ourselves out there, maybe feeling like we're acting a fool, maybe being embarrassed, maybe like not having everything perfect. And I call it taking messy action. That's my way of justifying it. It's like we're taking action that's a little messy, but it's okay, and like you start to, again, it's reframing it to make it sound prettier than just like
Yes.
acting a fool or being embarrassed or being cringe, right? Whatever that is, all the kids are saying. And but that when he said that and he said something about it being an underdeveloped emotion, it's like, right, nobody is developing embarrassment.
No,
Nobody is trying to be embarrassed. They're trying to avoid it like the plague. And that is so interesting to me and this was an actor that was saying that, which makes sense because he is trying to
they
be
have
vulnerable
to.
in all these situations. And so in order to feel vulnerable and sad in certain roles that he's in, he has to be able to feel that.
Yeah.
But that is so interesting because as humans, why are we so worried about being embarrassed? Why are we so worried about, like as dancers going out on the floor and wearing the wrong outfit or having the wrong hairstyle or what other people will think about us? And it just, for me, my mind exploded. It all of a sudden just went to, yeah, why do I care so much? What is the world gonna fall and explode if I walk out in the wrong outfit? Like, I don't care about those types of things. I do know a lot of people who do care. Like for me,
Sure.
I'm a lot more less caring about those things as I get older. But the things I do care about are more so business related. Like when I'm building my team, how does my team
Yeah.
perceive us? Are we taking care of them well? Are we making sure our clients are okay? Are we and especially in our industry, it's always about all of these organizers and all these people. There's so many politics around it all. And we've had these conversations on so many podcasts about how everything has to be a certain way. And you feel like you have to speak a certain way in order to get what you want. And
Yeah.
sometimes it's like, why do we do that to ourselves? Well, because we want this thing and that person holds the key to that thing. And then you go, well, do I really want that thing? Or do I just want, like, what do I really want? Do I really want to be a
Yeah.
millionaire because I want physical money? No, I want options. I want freedom. I want,
Sure.
like it's the things that it represents. Can I also give myself freedom and options without being a millionaire? Are there other
Yeah.
ways for me to feel free? This is the therapy that we go through, to find those, what are you really craving? And I think that the embarrassment thing, that word, even that just saying that word makes the hairs on the back of my neck stand up. But at the same time, it's like that emotion, if we can get comfortable with that emotion, then you're not really ever going to feel embarrassed. It's just going to be another version of yourself.
Yeah, it's whether, I mean, you could look at it two ways. One, which is that there is the emotion, the
Hmm.
feeling, the physical reaction, which is what you're experiencing, and there is the situation in which it occurred,
Mm,
right? Because one is intellectual and one other is biological.
right.
Do I train the biological and just
Yeah.
go, every time I feel this, doesn't mean it's a bad thing. It's just giving me a signal.
Right. That's
That's it.
it.
It's
It's a
just a signal.
message. And then what
Exactly.
we take it as is we take it as, oh, this is bad. And I think that's what he
Yes.
was talking about when he said it's an underdeveloped emotion, because it is underdeveloped as being a good thing, a way for you to, like, failing, right? Like if you could fail 50 more times and then succeed and guarantee you're going to succeed, you'd want to fail all the time. But the failing is hard to constantly pick yourself up again after you fail and be like, oh, I got to remotivate myself and I got to be determined and I got to focus on the goal and like all these things I'm giving up. But if you're constantly, it's like a muscle, putting it in practice and working it out like you do at the gym and being like, I'm okay throwing myself off balance. I'm okay being,
Sure.
you're comfortable being uncomfortable, essentially.
Yes.
And that is, I think that the people who can master those skills are the ones I think that go the furthest. It's like they cannot have all the knowledge in the world. They cannot be the smartest person. They cannot be the most, have all the tools and resources. But if they are okay throwing themselves off balance or getting themselves to a place where they are okay being uncomfortable and that becomes their
I
comfort
think
zone, they're going to go
I
further.
love
I've
what you're
seen those
saying.
people.
And I also can tell you that uh, those people may never have felt that way.
Mhm.
And so for us that do struggle with feeling embarrassed, with feeling
Right.
insecure in that way, in that particular,
Sure.
in that very specific um, experience, for us to go, well, they seem to be successful at all of that, and I just have to follow that path. And it's really unreasonable because if we put those people under a different circumstance, they probably struggle just as much as we do.
Totally.
It is
Totally.
just that in that environment or in that
Right.
domain,
It's
they
learned.
don't feel it. But even if they didn't learn it, because
Yeah.
what if you didn't? What if that just happens to be that you were never taught to be embarrassed?
Oh my gosh.
What if in that environment, it was never put as this heavy weight?
This negative thing. Oh my
Exactly.
God. I want to do that with my son. Oh my God, that my brain just went immediately to like, how do we just make it okay to be not okay sometimes? I love that.
So instead of saying that, say, read Carol Dweck's Mindset,
Okay.
because it talks about growth versus fixed. And that
Yeah.
really is what
Yeah.
it is that the
Oh yeah,
fixed mindset, it's where we struggle
it
versus
is.
the growth mindset, which is what allows us to
Totally.
explore. And honestly, the last chapter of our book is where all the magic happens. The beginning
Yeah.
is just informational, and
They
it's
dabble on that in Atomic Habits too, is talking about,
yeah.
when you're building new habits and things, is the growth
But
versus fixed.
the thing about it is what signals do you use with your son? What are the things that you say?
Hmm.
And it is, where do you allow them to, again, like we mentioned before, how do I allow you to fail in an environment in which it's okay to fail, because it is more about the success of trying.
Mm,
It is that
yeah,
the fact that you tried,
that's
that's
right.
successful. you know
100%.
that
100%.
it's not, oh, you just won, and instead of me saying great job, you won, it's great effort. It
Right.
is changing that word ever so slightly so that they never feel like it's all about you just failed,
Right.
which, a couple of weeks back had issues with, and this is one of those things where age matters. I was having a conversation with my daughter and trying to explain this one particular aspect about, she's currently in cheer, and she in competitive cheer, and what that means to her and all of this. And I tried to explain something to her, and afterwards she heard that I was saying that I didn't think she was good at it. And I'm like, that's not all what I said.
Mm,
Not at all. It's like, I want you to feel successful because you show up and you work hard,
yeah.
and sometimes it's not supposed to be rosy and pretty,
No.
but you still showed up. And
Right.
that grit, it's what it's all about.
Right. Yeah. Woo! Amen to that.
Good times.
I love it. Oh my goodness. Thank you so much. We could clearly
Thank
talk about
you.
this topic and all the tangents of it for hours. This is just scratching the surface, but I hope that those who have watched this episode, I told you it was going to be a special one. We were going to dive deep into all the things. So this is very exciting. We've got so much more to discuss, but this is a great way to get started on a lot of these conversations. And I hope that you have questions and you start to reflect on yourself of what it is that, we talked about today, because so many of these things are are things that we should be this should be normal conversation for so many people, but it's not, unfortunately. And so thank you for writing your book. Thank you for creating your systems. Thank you for putting it in something so complicated in our brain, making it a little bit easier to digest and understand. Because
Well, I appreciate, thank you for starting your business, which I think it's a very needed thing for
thank
our
you.
industry. And the fact that you are taking all of your strengths to really grow a particular part of our industry, I think that's really fantastic. So I do
Thank
appreciate
you.
you and the invitation for me to speak in your podcast.
Absolutely. Yes. So excited to have you here. Um, I am looking forward to more future conversations as your library grows.
Thanks. Appreciate it.
Awesome. We'll see you guys next time. Thank you so much.